Next, let's talk about tenant access rights in AOB. For hosted private cloud, if a tenant is subscribed to the managed networking services, consider providing them either with access only to a tenant in AOB, where their resources are deployed to add guardrails and prevent SLA violations. For co-managed or self-managed, you can provide full access at the AOB tenant level. If you see here in this AOB controller, I'm logged in with the admin account, so I can see all tenants on the controller. Normally, you would likely not create multiple tenants like this on the same controller and give them login access. But this is a lab, so this is here for testing. I've created a tenant named Echo. I'm going to switch to login with an account assigned to that tenant. I have an account called Echo Admin, and you will see that I can only see a subset of resources created in the Echo tenant. By creating a user in this specific tenant, they can only edit what is assigned to the tenant, so you can allow them full rights to the service engine group, the service engine and virtual services assigned to their tenant, but prevent them from modifying settings on the controller. And as you can see from within the tenant, I can edit things such as editing the existing service engine group that is created here. For the managed private cloud and public cloud models where Cloud Director is leveraged as the tenant access point for environments, leverage Cloud Director rights bundles to control what a tenant can do. For example, you can create two tenant bundles for networking, one where a tenant has rights to edit settings and one where a tenant has view only to network settings. And you can apply the appropriate rights bundle to each tenant based on the access you want them to have. You can see I have a rights bundle called Full Tenant Rights Bundle that allows tenants to manage their own network settings. When I edit the rights, you can see under Networking, Edge Gateway Services rights that I have assigned the ability for the tenant to manage load balancer configuration. For tenants who are subscribed to managed networking services, you can provide them with a read-only view so they can see settings, but it cannot edit them. This will provide guardrails to prevent them from making changes that could impact your contractual SLA provided around networking component uptime and change management. You can see I have a rights bundle here called Managed Network Tenant Rights Bundle that allows the tenants view only to network settings. When I edit the rights, again under Networking, Edge Gateway Service Rights, I have removed the ability for the tenant to manage load balancer configuration and have provided load balancer view only. Here you can see I have a tenant named Acme that I'm logged into, the tenant with an account called Acme. The Acme tenant again has the full tenant rights bundle assigned to it. You can see I can see the load balancer settings, the service engine group assigned, and I can create new virtual services, create a new pool, and edit existing virtual services and pools that have already been created. Here now I'm logged into a tenant named Bravo that has the managed network tenant rights bundles assigned with view-only rights. Again, I can see load balancer settings. In this case, the service engine group is not listed. It's not shown when you assign view only. And I have view only to the virtual services and pools. I cannot add new ones or edit existing ones. Next, I will cover ALB reporting. Depending on how you decide to monetize ALB services, you will need to make provide some reporting around that. Whether you're charging for a service engine group, a service engine, or virtual services. When shared segs are leveraged, it makes more sense to charge per virtual service. For service engine groups, or virtual service charges, you have several options depending on the delivery model. For the hosted private cloud and managed private cloud, you could provide access to the dedicated ALB controller, which we discussed earlier in this demo, to allow the tenants to see the segs, the service engines, and virtual services. You could also leverage ARIA operations to create a custom dashboard for each tenant, showing the trailing 30 days virtual services, service engines, and service engine group counts as shown here. And there's a management pack for ALB that you can install in ARIA operations to see this. Another option in the managed private cloud and public cloud deployments, you can just allow them to look at their settings through VMware Cloud Director. They'll be able to see their virtual service and service engines created. You could again also leverage, or in public cloud specifically, you can leverage ARIA operations with the same previous custom dashboard, but because it's shared, you wouldn't want to provide them access to ARIA operations directly. You could automate the emailing of reports to each tenant for the previous month's usage based on their dashboard.